you probably think kissing is universal, something every human everywhere has always done. But in 2015, two anthropologists surveyed 168 cultures around the world, and fewer than half of them kissed romantically at all. Not kissed differently, not kissed in private, didn't kiss, found the whole idea weird, some found it disgusting. Tonight, somewhere in the world, two people are leaning in for a kiss and treating it like the most natural thing a body can do. But for most of human history, and for billions of people alive right now, it isn't natural at all. It's a habit, a learned one. And the answer to where it came from changes what you think a kiss actually is. Most people assume kissing is an instinct, something hardwired, like a baby grabbing a finger. We point at chimps pressing their mouths together, at babies nursing, and we say, see, it was always there. But that's not quite right, and the real answer is far stranger than you'd expect. Start with the study that broke the myth. In 2015, anthropologists William Jankowiak and Shelley Volsche, working with Justin Garcia at the Kinsey Institute, went through ethnographic records for 168 distinct cultures. They were looking for one specific behavior, romantic sexual kissing, lip to lip between partners with intent. Not a peck on a baby's head, not a greeting on the cheek, the kiss you're picturing. They expected to find it almost everywhere. They found it in 46% of cultures. In the majority, it simply wasn't part of romantic life. Among many hunter-gatherer societies, the closest living analog to how humans lived for most of our existence, they found essentially zero evidence of romantic kissing. Zero. The behavior we treat as the universal symbol of love turned out to be a minority practice, concentrated in complex, stratified societies with social hierarchies and, notably, with cattle. And the cultures that didn't kiss weren't shy about it. When the Mehinaku of Brazil were first asked about kissing, they reportedly found the idea revolting. Early 20th century anthropologists recorded similar reactions from groups in Polynesia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Amazonia. Pressing your mouth onto another person's mouth and exchanging saliva? Why would you do that? It struck them the way licking a stranger's eyeball might strike you. Even Charles Darwin noticed this. In his 1872 book on the expression of emotion, he wrote that kissing as a sign of affection was unknown to the Tahitians, the New Zealanders, the Papuans, the Australians, the Somali, and the Eskimo, who, he noted, rubbed noses instead. Darwin's conclusion was quiet but devastating. Whatever kissing was, it wasn't a universal human reflex. It was a custom, and customs have origins. So where does ours come from? For a long time, the oldest known reference to romantic kissing was traced to Vedic Sanskrit texts in India around 1500 BCE. That gave rise to a tidy story. Kissing was invented in South Asia, then spread west with Alexander the Great's armies after 326 BCE, when his soldiers encountered it and carried it home. Cute theory. Wrong. In 2023, two researchers, Troels Pank Arbøl, an Assyriologist at the University of Copenhagen, and Sophie Lund Rasmussen, a biologist at Oxford, published a paper in the journal Science that pushed the date back by at least 1,000 years. They had been digging through Mesopotamian clay tablets, the cuneiform records of ancient Sumer and Babylon. And there, written in wet clay around 1800 BCE, were explicit descriptions of romantic sexual kissing between lovers, married and unmarried. The tablets even complain about it. One text warns a young man not to kiss a woman he shouldn't, because her saliva will linger on him and he'll get caught. That is not the writing of a culture inventing a new behavior. That is the writing of a culture that already finds kissing ordinary, mildly scandalous, and a known forensic risk. Arbøl and Rasmussen went further. They argued that kissing wasn't invented in any one place. It was probably a quiet, recurring practice across multiple early human societies in Eurasia, present for thousands of years before anyone bothered to write it down. They even pointed to its likely side effect, the spread of herpes simplex virus 1. Genetic studies of HSV1 by evolutionary virologists, including work led by Charlotte Holdcroft at Cambridge, suggest the strain we carry today underwent a major expansion during the Bronze Age, exactly when populations were mixing, migrating, and apparently kissing. So we know it's old, we know it's not universal. The question is why it took hold in some cultures and not others. And here the theories get interesting. One leading idea comes from the Jankowiak study itself. The cultures that kissed romantically tended to be socially complex, stratified, class-based, places where mate choice mattered, where alliances were tracked, where displays of intimacy carried social weight. Kissing, in this reading, isn't an expression of love so much as a tiny private contract, a way to test compatibility, signal commitment, and, biologically, sample a partner's scent, taste, and immune chemistry up close. Researchers like Raphael Lodarsky at Oxford have run experiments on exactly this. In a 2013 study, he surveyed over 900 adults and found that the importance people placed on kissing correlated strongly with their interest in long-term partner assessment, not with arousal. The kiss wasn't foreplay, it was an interview. Another theory is simpler and more uncomfortable. Kissing may have started as something else entirely. In many cultures, mothers pre-masticate food and pass it mouth to their infants, a behavior observed by anthropologists from the Inuit Arctic to Papua New Guinea. Some researchers, including the Dutch biologist Anna Wahlberg, have suggested that the romantic kiss is a kind of evolutionary echo of that feeding gesture, a bonding ritual borrowed from infancy and repurposed for adulthood. If that's true, every kiss you've ever had carries a trace of something much older and much weirder than romance. Now here's the twist. If kissing is a learned custom, invented, spread, occasionally rejected, you'd expect it to be slowly going extinct in cultures that never adopted it. The opposite is happening. Over the last century, romantic kissing has spread faster than almost any other behavior in human history. Hollywood films, K-dramas, Bollywood, global advertising, all of it exporting the close-up kiss as the visual shorthand for love. Anthropologists revisiting communities that didn't kiss 50 years ago are finding teenagers who do, who learned it from screens, who treat it as obvious. The behavior is colonizing the species in real time, which means something genuinely odd is true about you. The thing you experience as the most private, most instinctive, most wordless expression of love you're capable of, that thing was almost certainly taught to you. Not by a parent, not by a friend, by a camera. By 1,000 close-ups you absorbed before you ever leaned in yourself. The first time you kissed someone, your brain wasn't drawing on 3 million years of primate evolution. It was drawing on a script. And maybe that's the real reason the Mehinaku found it disgusting. Not because they were missing something, because they hadn't been trained to see it. A kiss, stripped of the cultural soundtrack we've layered over it, is just two faces pressed together, exchanging bacteria. The meaning isn't in the act. The meaning is in everything you were taught to feel while you were doing it. So tonight, if you kiss someone, notice what happens. Notice how automatic it feels. Notice how certain you are that it means what you think it means. And then remember that for most humans who have ever lived, that gesture would have been a stranger's habit, something exotic, something learned, something that somewhere along the way somebody decided was love. Sit with that for a second. The most natural thing you do might be the most invented thing about you.